Have you ever felt like when you feel like giving up on your dream?
On today's show, we're going to be talking about persevering through the tough times. Stay tuned. It's Awaken Your Spirit.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Awaken Your Spirit. We are your hosts. I'm Dr. Aaron Garcia.
And I'm Veronica Mendez Garcia, and our show is about inspiration, motivation, and developing the mindset to live a happy and abundant life.
We're live every Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific time, 12 p.m. Eastern. If you guys would like to join us each time on the show and get reminded when we go live, make sure if you're watching here on Facebook that you turn on the live notification button here in the feed. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that little bell icon so you know when we have a new episode posted. Today, we're going to be talking about persevering through challenging times and how we can overcome those. But before we get into that, we always like to start with our first segment of our show, which is our inspirational moment with Veronica.
So inspirational moments is when I like to read something inspirational. And today I have a card. It's an angel card that we chose. And it's the one that I like to share. It's the Archangel Michael. And this one, the card that was chosen says, you created the situation and you have the power to change it. It says this card is a reminder that you are a powerful creator, made in the image and likeness of the divine creator. You're not a passive victim. You have the right and the skills to rise above and change everything in this situation and relationship. However, as long as you blame others or believe that they're controlling you, you'll remain stuck. But by calling upon God and Archangel Michael, and then taking charge according to your guidance, you can change everything in miraculous ways. So possible meanings for this is let go of blame towards yourself or others, write down a list of action steps, and then follow through with one or more per day. Have an honest discussion with the other person in this situation. Take one or more steps today toward turning your dreams into reality. Give yourself permission to make helpful life changes. And then the prayer that goes with this, it's thank you for letting me lean on your strength and for reminding me of my personal power. Please guide me to manifest and heal according to divine will, creating peace and blessings for everyone involved.
I like that. If you guys enjoyed that, make sure you give some hearts and likes here into the feed. We always love doing our inspirational moments because and it's interesting how that alone goes with our topic for today. Mm-hmm. And it's like we have the power to change any circumstance that we might be going through because at some level, we're the ones that created that, either through thought, through action, and our behaviors. And when we realize that, hey, if I created the situation, I'm the one that can change that.
Yeah, and especially emotions, because emotions is what gives power to those thoughts. So when you're feeling, angry, frustrated, you're amplifying whatever you're doing out of that energy. So that's why it's important to be mindful of how we're feeling.
Yeah. So that was an inspirational moment for today. Again, if you know that there's anybody that might benefit from the message of this show that might be going through something and maybe they need just a little extra helping hand, maybe an uplift for today, make sure you share this with them, tag them in here into the comments and share this with everybody else. So that way we never know who this message is going to impact. And if you guys are here, you want to say hello, let us know where you're coming in from. You can type that into the feed. If you have any comments or questions you'd like to share with us, make sure you put those here into the comments as well. And we'd love to say hello to you guys. All right. But for today, what we're talking about here is persevering through challenging times.
Yeah.
And I can guess that most of us have gone through some challenging time at some point in our life. You might be going through it right now. Maybe you're doing very well, but at some point in your life, you went through those challenging times and had to push through that. And a lot of times when we go through these challenges, there could be that moment when we just feel like giving up. Mm-hmm. And that's the emotion of despair. We feel like we got this big vision, this big dream, and it seems like everything's just very, very challenging. And it could just be so easy to just stop and do something else.
Yeah, but during those challenges, that's really when all the growth happens, because it's pushing us to become stronger. It's pushing us to maybe look outside of what we've been doing, in the normal everyday situation. So it's guiding us to look for other things. So maybe that could be a book, it could be some audios, some movie, or maybe a teacher or someone who has the information that can help you. And sometimes we feel like giving up because we don't know the answers, we don't know the how. But if you keep persevering and pushing forward, it really will help you to grow, because then you're going to learn from that experience.
Yeah, and sometimes these challenging times, they can be tough. Emotionally, mentally, they can drain you, and whatever it is that you want to accomplish. And you have this big vision, this big dream, something you want to manifest into your life. And when we are trying to manifest anything, we're going to be faced with challenges. We're going to be faced with some form of a difficulty, and it's there because we have to learn how to grow through that in order to receive the thing that we want to attract in our life. And that could be whether it's a relationship, a great relationship you want to bring into your life, whether it's you want to build a business, or you want to do charity, or whatever that is, that vision. Everybody's is unique to them, but we have to push through those because it's not going to be handed to us very easily. And the more we learn how to persevere through that, we learn through those experiences, and they become less challenging in the future.
Yeah, and then when they become less challenging, what usually happens is you set another dream, another goal, and then you work through that, because life, it's all about growth, and it's gonna challenge you, and that's kind of like the test that you push through it. Like, are you gonna stick with it and keep pushing through, or are you just gonna give up on your dreams because of a challenge? And that's the part of the journey that we have to understand, that we have to push through these things and not just give up the first sign of challenge, because then it's just giving up on your dream or on life. And we have to embrace these challenges and be okay with it. It's just something else that we have to work through, but understand that on the other side, you're going to grow because of it, and you're going to be a better person because of it.
Yeah. I want to say hello to Abigail, who's joining with us. She says hello, good morning, wherever you're coming from. And it's interesting because I've had those moments where Veronica and I were both entrepreneurs. We've done things separately, and we're doing things together. But there has been some points where moving towards a vision or a dream, and it doesn't seem like it's working out very well. There's setbacks that happen, and a long list of emotions will come through, and there's frustration, there's worry, sometimes there's fear, and sometimes it's like a bit of sadness too when things aren't going the way you want them to, or it might feel like your dream may not happen. And there's times where I feel like where it's been so frustrating that I just have wanted to just stop it. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. It's too taxing on me emotionally, physically. And one thing I realized, it was more than I understood, it was a tantrum. Because in those emotional states, that's when we feel like we give up, when we're in a highly emotional state. And so when we go into these, I'll call it a tantrum, is like I learned to learn how to push through that and work through that. And then when I'm calmer, I can make a rational decision. Now, there might be times where I have to stop doing what I was doing. It doesn't mean I have to give up on my dream. And so maybe something that I'm doing, that I was doing, wasn't working. It's like I had this vision of where I wanted to go and what I want to do. And what I was doing didn't seem to be making the progress that I wanted to help me push forward. And so there's times where I feel like I've had this motto, like, I don't quit on anything. And there's good and there's bad into that concept. And one is, when you don't quit, you persevere. You keep going through. And I always remember the quote from Napoleon Hill that says, like, a quitter never wins and a winner never quits. And when you don't quit doing something, let's say if you're doing something that's not working and you keep going through because you don't want to quit, well, then you're going to keep getting the same results.
Yeah, but there's one thing to keep doing the same thing over and over, and you see that it's not working, but there's another thing to change the way you do things.
Yeah.
So it's like it has to be this way, and then but then you're not seeing the result that you want. But it's like you have to adjust and then change the way you do things. Or people say look outside the box or think outside the box to create a change and then to see if that works. But if you continually do something and you see it's not working, but you keep doing it, then you're not going to get anywhere. But if you're open to change and to changing things, and then you test it out, then you see, okay, is this going to work or not?
Yeah. And you push through. It means, okay, I might have to stop doing what I'm doing if it's not working and try something else. But I can still keep my vision. I can still keep my dream in my mind. But I might have to pivot and shift a few times. And sometimes it seems like it can get so frustrating, right? But the moment you realize, like we talked about in the reading today, was we create our own situations. And if we can create these situations, and let's say the situations that aren't going our way, then we have the power to change that. So we can change directions. We can change the way we think. We can change the way we feel. We can change our behaviors, our attitudes, and the things that we do, our action steps. And we're bound to get a different result. But we have to be aware of that. We have to be aware that we can change it, because there are a lot of people that don't realize that they can change it, and they fall victimhood to circumstances.
Yeah, and a lot of it even before you start on working on something, it starts in the mind. Because if you have a negative mindset going into something, then the results that you get are probably going to be more on the negative side. And it's your attitude. Like, how do you look at things, as they're coming towards you, even the challenges, like if you're looking at the challenges as something that's just so horrible and then you're just going to give up, then that's not the right attitude. It's like looking at the challenge. Okay, what can we do from here, and think of solutions in order to move forward. But if you're going to allow one little thing to get in the way of your dreams or your goals, then you're just going to give up on it. But it's still pushing through it and knowing that you're going to grow from it. And that's how, it's like having the right attitude to push through these things.
Yeah. We have a comment. Jamie says, very true. I have learned that, and I tried to explain that to my kids and a few friends. Abigail says, seeing is the first step.
Yeah.
And so we can tell people, but we sometimes have to teach it to ourselves and pay attention, because we are all going to have to go through that. So we are the keepers of our own life. And it's interesting because we had been reading, we read a biography on Walt Disney, and Jamie, you'll get a kick out of this because you work at Disneyland, and going through his trials and his errors. In fact, most of that book, I think, was more trial and as more of his challenges than anything. And like what he went through mentally, emotionally, because there's times he got screwed over quite a bit. He was always on the verge of bankruptcy, and things just always weren't going his way. Even at the point where he created all Mickey Mouse and all these cartoons, he still was an unhappy person. Now he persevered because he had these bigger visions that people couldn't see within him. But yeah, he was in the point of like severe depression because he couldn't get the money to back up his vision, what he wanted to do. He created characters that were taken away from him. And it's interesting to see how he was able to push through. And because he stuck to what he believed in, you can see what he's been able to create.
Yeah, it's interesting, that you mentioned that. It's like with all the challenges that he experienced, like most people probably would have given up, but he didn't. And he kept pushing through, and finally he did create what he wanted. But I think even after he died, it still wasn't finished, because he wanted to create Disney World, and but he made sure he talked to the right people before he passed. His brother was there with him, and he had this big vision of creating pretty much like a big city where people lived in, and it was all run kind of in a particular way, but it was very advanced for that time. And there was like solar powered energy, how to live off the land, and just very interesting information
that was the vision of Epcot Center that they created. Now it's not the Epcot Center that he envisioned, but they still created that. And Jamie says there is a movie about his life. Yeah, there's a couple of them. I think we've
Yeah.
seen a few of them, but it's interesting to actually read the biography and the actual accounts from people that he worked with, his family, his brother, and all in the archives as well from Disney, like the actual factual information. So it's very fascinating.
Yeah.
Abigail says, I found myself through the change too and made it harder than it should have been.
Oh, she fought herself.
Oh, fought myself through the change.
Yeah.
That is a great point, because we can make it seem like it's the most biggest thing in our mind. And it seems like it's so hard. It can be so challenging. And I resonate because I've gone through this. And once we decide to make the change, it's usually not as bad as we thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
It seems harder when we're thinking about it. It seems harder when we can't figure out the solution to the situation that's at hand.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and right now is a very challenging time for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Here we're in San Diego, in California, and in San Diego, they just went back to square one, where they start shutting everything down again.
Yeah, it's like a roller coaster, like where we go up and, okay, you guys could open, you can sit down in indoor dining, and then, okay, sorry, we have to shut everything down again. So it's like an emotional roller coaster for a lot of people, especially if they allow it to affect them. But it has been, even tough for businesses. They have to change the way they do business, but that's part of it. This is part of the change, and you're used to doing things a certain way, but it's also preparing for things like this. Like, what do we do when this happens? And, it might not be the first time it happens either. So it's a good thing, because it's teaching people, okay, we got to either think bigger or just do things completely different. And it's going to change the way we do business and everything, even the way we live our life.
Yeah, and there's so many different things. So it's like, how do we change? And because everybody's going through this at the same time, then there's a lot of unknowns. Again, when you're forced on change, like immediately, that's a big challenge. And how do we push through that? Mm-hmm. And it's very challenging to push through it when we are feeling the emotional wave of it. Mm-hmm. Because if we're in these highly emotional states, if we're worried, if we're scared, if we are upset about whatever's going on, then where are we putting our focus? We're putting our focus on the problem. Yeah. And if we're focusing on the problem, then we're not paying attention to the solution. So if we can just allow whatever's happening to be, okay, this is what is right now. Maybe at this moment we can't change everything that's happening. It's like, how can we adapt to it? And the concept is, what can I do now to change things? And it might just be, what can I do to help me? What can I do to help my family? Mm-hmm. It might not be, what can I do to help the economy? But you take care of you first. And where do I need to adapt? Where do I need to pivot?
And then Abigail says, it ended up being way bigger than him. He was the Noah that built the ark. The universe added to the vision and expanded it. And she's talking about Walt Disney.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's so massive, and that it's an interesting story. And if you guys haven't watched it.
Yeah. And she also says, I didn't want to change some things. I was gatekeeping things that I really needed to release. Yeah. What do we still hold on to? Yeah. And are we willing to let go of the past? Are we willing to let go of our way sometimes? And this has been a big, something I've been learning to work with, is getting out of my own way and allowing the ideas of others to come in. Like, hey, everybody else has great ideas as well. Mm-hmm. And when we can collaborate with each other, and we can create great things. But sometimes we have to be willing to make that change first. And when change is forced upon people, that becomes a little bit of an issue, because most people don't like to be forced to change. Mm-hmm. We usually change when we decide to change.
Yeah, when you're willing to change. Yeah.
And so we have to keep persevering. We have to push through. And Abigail says also, some things are traditional, and this is harder to see as needing to change it. Mm-hmm. So similar concept. Yeah. We got Leroy Wicks is joining with us. He says, good morning, friends from Iowa. Thanks for your prayers for my sister. She is currently in surgery, receiving her kidney from a beautiful soul and family. Many people prayed, miracle in motion. I'm not with her in person, but close to her in spirit.
Yeah.
I told her to keep her focus on Jesus, the King, and the greatest physician. Amen and amen.
Yeah, prayers to your sister, and keep the intention that she's going to be fine. See her as healed.
Yeah. And then Abigail says, I love that we sit around always thinking of things like this. We are all problem solvers.
Yeah.
And we're all problem solvers. That's what our being is. We are creators. We learn to create things. We're always being pushed forward. We can't stop that. It reminds me of the original like Mario Brothers video games. And you remember the old original Nintendos, if you played them, where the screen's always moving and you have to keep up with the screen because it's going to keep pushing you forward. You don't get to go backwards. And so it's going to push you forward. So you got to just keep jumping. You got to keep going through. Otherwise it's going to push you into the ditch. And so life's the same way. It's like you can't just stop and go back. It's like life is always going to keep moving forward. The sun's going to rise. It's going to go back down. Tomorrow's going to happen. The next day's going to happen. So what do we do today? We just keep pushing forward.
Yeah. And that's a good example. Like why do we feel the need to look back and to look at all the bad things that happened to us? It's like, okay, that happened. I learned from this, and now it's just move forward and be present in the now. Also, don't worry about the future because it's not even here yet, but it's like, it is what it is now. And we're here, we're breathing, and we don't know where life's going to take us.
Yeah, and the future is just a creation of what we're doing in this moment right now. It's like every action step, every thought, every emotion is all creating tomorrow. It's all going to create the next day. And so what we do now, the decisions that we make, the action steps that we take, that's all going to dictate what's going to happen. But we keep dwelling on the future. If we keep dwelling on all the problems, again, we're not moving forward, and we just keep seeing the same thing over and over. We had read, from Napoleon Hill, and there's a story that's called 3 Feet from Gold. And they even made a book out of that story, 3 Feet from Gold. And it was from our friends, Greg Reed and Sharon Lechter. And the concept of the story was a gentleman by the name of R.U. Darby. For him and his uncle, they purchased a gold mine. This is back in the early 1900s, thinking they're going to strike it rich. And they found gold. And they were digging, and everything seemed to be going great until the gold vein stopped. And no matter what they did, they couldn't find any more gold. So eventually they got frustrated. They gave up. They sold all of their equipment to a local, and they went and just started something different. And the guy that they sold all their equipment to, very cheap, by the way, he wasn't a miner, but he realized, well, I can find somebody who's more experienced at this than I am. And he found an engineer and said, hey, do you know what happened here? And the engineer told him, well, here's the problem, because he understood fault lines, is if they would have just dug 3 feet to the left, they would have found their gold. And lo and behold, they started digging that way, and there was the gold vein, and it helped made that guy very wealthy. And so the concept is they gave up. They were 3 feet away from their gold, 3 feet away from their vision. It could be 3 days, it could be 3 years, whatever that might be. But we're so close to having that vision come to fruition that if we just give up, we'll never see it happen.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people probably give up too soon, again, because of challenges or because things just seem so hard. But, if they realize that that's what's helping them, like the challenges always help us, and it helps us to make things better, because even in the challenging times now, businesses are learning to adapt, and they're learning to create things better and make things maybe more, I guess with the virus going on, make it more acceptable for society so they won't get sick. And, you're just keeping everything sanitary. But it's not just the coronavirus, it's all these other viruses that are out there. And by practicing, washing your hands and this and that, you avoid the spread of that. So people don't call in sick as much.
Yeah. And again, these were all solutions. There was a problem, and solutions came. Now you see, like in the stores, there's all the plexiglasses. That's a solution to a problem. And all the restaurants, you're seeing all the dining out now. All the canopies and the tables are being set up, because that's the only way that they can really do business right now, especially here in San Diego. They try to open up so we can go indoors. I don't think it's even been a month, and they shut that down. So now the restaurants, they can only be dining outside. And so a lot of restaurants had to pull all their tables into the parking lot.
Yeah.
And that's just being innovative. So they can at least stay in
They
business.
can stay in business, keep it open.
Yeah. There you go, Veronica.
Jamie says, I'm finally working on making my dream come, all because of the support and belief of family. I mentioned I want to be a photographer to Mom, and she said, why can't you? And to have family and friends support me makes me so happy. And I am working on my dream, working on a portfolio and my photography, and I have a project I'm working on. Since my son's senior year will be distance learning, I'm creating a senior yearbook for him.
Awesome.
That's awesome. I will have my business going, I'm sure, within a year. That's great.
I think you can do it sooner.
Yeah, I think so too.
Absolutely. If you need help, let us know, Jamie. But I think that's fantastic because you're finding a passion, you're finding a dream. And right now, as people are learning and look at everything that's going on today as a blessing, because yes, it's heartbreaking to see a lot of people losing their jobs. But at the same time, there's a lot of people that may not like their job in the first place.
Yeah.
And it's forcing them to do something that they really wanted to do, like starting their own business. So, I've always wanted to do that, but I was too afraid. But now something has pushed me forward to do that. Call it that the invisible hand that's helping you see your dream to fruition. And that's something that I've discovered my own. And at least the way I like to look at it is, you really want to do something, you're thinking about it all the time, but you're not willing to change the way you're doing things. You're not willing to make do things in a different way. And so it's like the universe, spirit, God, whatever you want to call it. It says, okay, you want this, but you're not listening to all the hints and the signs. So we're going to force you out of here. That's
the comfort zone where it's like you're afraid to move forward in the direction of your dreams because you're comfortable where you're at. Maybe if you're in a job that you don't like, you're getting a paycheck every week or every 2 weeks, you have benefits and this and that. But so you're putting your dream aside because you're comfortable. But when you get uncomfortable and you pursue the dream and you pursue what you've always wanted to do, now you're more happy because you're doing what you love versus doing what you don't love, even though you're getting paid for it.
Absolutely.
So it's very important to do things that make you happy. And we're not saying to just quit your job and go, do that. Quit your job when you're able to continue and do what you love, but you're generating income.
Yeah, where it takes over your income from the other job, and you feel like I can do this on my own, so I can expand and grow that.
Yeah.
But again, we talk about challenging times. Even being an entrepreneur, running a business, there still can be some hiccups in there and some challenges that you're going to learn how to push through because there's so much to learn, and that's the beauty of it all. And it doesn't seem like it's beauty in the middle of it.
Yeah, because it's the challenging times. It's not that easy. Yeah. So that's where it's like it's uncomfortable, but understand that it's a good thing. And when you can see it from that perspective, then it becomes easier. And that's a practice, by the way. It is whenever there's a challenge time, is ask the question rather than why is this happening to me? That's the first question that people might say. You're going to ask yourself now, what's the good in this situation? Mm-hmm. What's the blessing that's going to come out from this? And what's going to be different when I push through all of this? How much stronger am I going to be? But when you can use the practice and discipline of where's the good in this, then you're looking for solutions rather than focusing on the issue at hand. Yeah, because in those challenging times, it's so easy to see all the negative stuff and all the things that are going wrong. But when you shift your focus and you're, like Aaron mentioned, focusing on all the good and what's the good coming out, then your emotion regarding what's happening is going to shift into a better feeling emotion because now you're focusing on the good that's coming from it. And then Abigail says, there's another cartoon video that shows one man reached gold and celebrated. Another person was about to strike a richer vein, but he stopped and he tried to murder the one that found it first. He missed his bigger opportunity because he stopped. Yeah, that's absolutely true because it's like if it's a cartoon, it's kind of showing like, well, he decided to go this route, but he could have struck it bigger by following the other vein that you found.
Yeah, because again, when you're going through your goal, you don't know when it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It could happen tomorrow. It depends on where you are in your journey. And so when you visualize what you want to create, when you visualize the life that you want to live, is you keep pushing forward no matter what, and see that and feel how good that is, because that's what's going to keep you moving forward when you feel good. If you're in those negative emotional states, that's like the weight that holds you down.
Yeah.
And it seems like everything gets slower. And I know this from experiences when there's seems like a problem or a challenge at hand. And we're talking about when you focus on the solution,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like everything stops.
Oh, the bad.
It's like the negative. You're thinking of the
Yeah.
negative. It's like, okay, I can't think of a solution. I don't know how to make this different. And this could be like a bad challenge, or maybe you just come across an obstacle of, how can I create a solution to this? And when you're thinking about all like there's no solution, there's like nothing happens. But sometimes we may not know exactly how it's going to happen. And so we start anyways. And when we start, we learn as we go,
Mm-hmm.
rather than trying to figure it all out in the beginning. And this is just a practice and something I've been working through for the last few years.
I try to make things perfect, and before you start it, it's just get it going, and you learn along the way.
Absolutely. I'm not 100% great at it yet, but I'm definitely way better than I was before.
Yeah.
And I'm always learning. I'm always growing. And we all are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because life that, you're never going to stop growing. You're never going to stop learning, and you're never going to know everything. So it's like we learn and that's where growth happens.
Yeah. So if you guys are just tuning in with us right now, you're watching Awaken Your Spirit. We are your hosts. I'm Dr. Aaron Garcia.
And I'm Veronica Mendez Garcia. And today we're talking about persevering through challenging times. So if any of you are having challenging times right now, and we know there's so many people out there that are, what are you doing to persevere through it? Or what are the shifts that you are making to push through all this?
Yeah, because everybody will have their own strategies, right?
Yeah.
And it's always interesting to see, what do you guys do when you come up with a challenge in your life? What's one thing that helps you to push through that? Because getting the advice and experience from other people that have gone through that, it helps other people that might be going through it for the first time or never learned how to push through it. And so it's important that we all share as a community, because we're here to help each other.
Mm-hmm.
We are just a catalyst for that, but we all are here to help each other out. And that's what life really is about. It's about service to others and helping everybody else that might be going through some challenges when you're doing well. And just like when we're going through challenges, there's people that have been there to help us.
Mm-hmm.
And we're very grateful for that. And that's another thing is, expressing gratitude for everything, for everyone in your life, good or bad. Because sometimes we realize that it's even the people that you might consider challenging in your life, they're the ones that teach you the most.
Yeah. The challenging people in your life, like Aaron mentioned, that's exactly, those are the people that you grow more because of them, because they, like, say they frustrate you. Now, that because they frustrate you, you have to work on yourself to not allow yourself to get frustrated because of whatever they're doing or whatever they're not doing. And it's learning to handle yourself internally and emotionally, and instead of reacting out of anger, frustration, now you can teach yourself to respond, and you're able to just talk to people versus yelling. And a lot of people like to yell when they get angry or frustrated, but it's like, if you can teach yourself to not yell and maybe calm yourself down emotionally first, and then you can respond in a way where you can actually have a conversation about something versus just yelling back and forth, because that never solves anything.
Yeah. And the other thing too is blaming other people's or other situations. And again, I'm going to take that back to our reading this morning, is that we are the ones that create our own experiences. Now, some people might have a hard time with that concept. It's like, well, how did I create coronavirus? I didn't create that. But in a way, if you understand how we attract things through vibration and our energy and the collective thought pattern of people around the world, in a sense, we did create it. Now, we didn't necessarily say, oh, I want the virus, I want to get sick, or I want these things to happen. But something's telling us, I want something different in my life. I want to do something better, but I don't like where I'm at right now. And like I mentioned, that invisible hand that kind of pushes you forward and puts in a circumstance that's there to challenge you. It's like, well, that's not what I was expecting.
Yeah.
But that's just the thing, is like, we don't expect it to happen the way we can see it, but it does push us forward. And that's why the concept of gratitude and looking at the blessing in each thing, even if it seems like it's the worst thing in the world, just like the whole world is going to change because of this. We can't do things the same way we used to, and we don't know what it's going to be like because we're still in it. But something's going to happen a year from now, 2 years from now. We're going to look back, and because of this whole situation, this is what has happened to the world. This is all the things that were created because of that. I'm excited to see what happens with that.
Yeah. There's going to be great things that come from it. So stay tuned.
Abigail says, sometimes the lesson is to move away from them too.
Yeah. Because it's
we're talking about people.
With people, it's like, are you by staying in a relationship or situation, are you maybe not valuing yourself, or are you allowing other people to walk over you and maybe not standing up for yourself? But sometimes walking away is the best thing, because if you know that trying to talk to someone and they're not going to listen, then why stay there? You have the choice to walk away.
Or if there's like we're talking about relationship, or there's abuse involved, and some people they tend to stay in that relationship because there's a fear of leaving.
Yeah.
What's going to happen? What am I going to do on my own? And so it's more comfortable to stay than to leave, even though the comfortability still is unpleasant. Which one's worse? Well, it's that fear of, I'm not going to live. I'm not going to I might be on the street. And so there's different scenarios that happen with that. But the lesson is, if you want things to change, can you just walk away? You can change your environment. You can change the people that are around. You get the choice, but you have to be willing to do that.
Yeah.
She also says discernment is a powerful tool. Yeah, tool. Had to add the L to that one. And then she says, some things we ask to heal means we get challenges that show us where we are in the process. Yeah, we think we're doing good and we're doing fine. Hey, I'm doing so much better. I've learned through all these challenges and experiences, and then the test comes. You've gone through all the quizzes and the exercises, and then the real test comes, and you see where you stand. And sometimes it says, well, you're doing better, but you got a 70%. And so you get that 100% that says, hey, I'm not affected by the situation. I've learned to push through that. And it's our guidance system will let us know. It's how you feel.
Yeah. And she also says abuse brings an uncomfortable sense of responsibility to the victims. Yeah. And it's like, how long are you going to tolerate that? Or if you experience it now, it's like you have to think of like, what am I going to do from here? But the best thing is, like, especially in abuse, is get out. And the how will come later. And there's friends around you, and there's places where you can go. And some people feel like they have nowhere to go. But there is resources out there for people who are in that situation.
Yeah. And so many different situations. Jamie says, the pandemic actually is a blessing in disguise for me, I have come to realize. Too soon to mention what they are, but as frustrated as I am with this, I have good things happening too. One is my photography. Like I said, something that finally pushed you to do something different. The other few things I can't talk about just yet. That you keep that vision. So there's a lot of works in the head. You don't want to put it all out there unless you have the people that are there to support you with that. But that, again, we look at that as a blessing. Sometimes we go back. There's always a significant challenge that's happened in our life. That could be a breakup. It could be parents divorcing. Some people, it's an accident, and they might say, if that had not happened, I would not be the person that I am today. I would not be where I am today. I would not meet the people that I'm with today had that not had happened. It's that butterfly effect. What if we went back in time in the DeLorean and changed that situation? And what would be different today? How would that have changed things today? Who would I be? And so we look at those as blessings.
Yeah, because all those experiences, we learn from it. It helps us grow. and we experience all these emotions, and it's if you were to change that, and if everything was all good, either life can be probably boring, or you're not really growing. But the challenges really help us grow. Like playing a video game, if it's really easy, it's a boring game. So
Yeah.
and that's like life. If your life is like super easy and you don't even have to do anything, it can be boring. But that's why we have the challenges to help us grow.
Yeah, and they're there too, because it's that bit of excitement. We want to be able to feel like we're making progress, not act like we're making progress. Well, both, but we want to feel like, hey, I couldn't figure this problem out before, but now I learned how to do that, and there's a sense of celebration with that. I've learned, I pushed through something, just like the child that's learning how to walk, and they're like, they stand up on their 2 feet and they wobble, but then they fall down. And it's that time when they stand up and they take that first step and they're still up on their feet. And you see the excitement in their face, like, oh my God, I just did it. And then everybody's cheering along, like, come on. They're so excited, like, look at me, I finally did it.
Yeah.
But they keep going. But think about that analogy as well, is, does the child give up the first time that they fall down?
No.
No, they keep crawling around. There's really no concept of giving up at that time. They keep doing it until they build a strength. They work with it, and they learn how to do that. And then they learn how to run, and they learn how to, take your things and run away and hide them. And there's so many different scenarios, but we have to have that same type of mentality. Is no matter if we fall many times, if we keep persevering, we keep pushing through, we'll figure out how to get back up and keep our stability.
Yeah. I remember when Violet first started walking, the very first time she walked on her own, kind of with her hands up, and then she did it, and I saw her eyes get really big, and she got excited and she started moving her hands. But it's really interesting to see that. And also for us, like when we overcome a challenge, celebrate it, and make it worthwhile. Like get that excitement out, and know that you've overcome something.
Yeah. And Abigail says, COVID is a collective lesson. We are all being challenged in many areas. And the blessing in this too is because we are all going through the exact same situation. Now, everybody's going to be experiencing it a lot differently, because we all have our own perceptions in our own world that we live in. But the fact that we can relate that it's not just us, it's not just a city, it's not a state, it's not the country, it's everybody in the world, that right now is a time for everybody to come together and help each other out. There's going to be a sense of community. And when we can step out and realize, hey, you know what? I'm having a challenge in my life. There are people that are there to assist you, whatever that might be. But we have to be willing to ask for that help.
Yeah. And just asking for help could be that uncomfortable feeling that we get, that little challenge. And once you move through that, and you realize, wow, there's like so many people here willing to help me, then it's like, oh, I should have asked for help a long time ago. But it's at the beginning, like the uncomfortableness of the situation, but then you push through it, and then it gets better, and it's like, oh, okay. And then another challenge happens, and you push through that, and things always get better. Like you can't stay in that rut forever.
Yeah. And you find that it's not getting any better, or things are changing, but it's not going the direction. One is, okay, we have to change a bunch of things. We might have to change the way that we think. Again, what are we thinking about? Is it all negative? We're focusing on all the negative things that are happening, or all the problems. We have to change the way that we feel. Can we get in a better, more positive mood today than we were yesterday? And then we just have to learn to change our attitudes, because our thoughts and our emotions is what makes up our attitude and our behaviors. And that's going to determine the action steps that we take, whether we do something about it or we don't do something about it. But each one is an action step. And if it's not working, we just need to play with the equation a little bit. And what could I do differently? And a lot of times we know it starts in thought. And so we just change our perception about things, and we can now start to move forward.
Yeah, definitely.
So Abigail says, we must begin to come together and see where we fit into the new reality that is growing right before our eyes. We are at a major crossroad for greater humanity. It's a huge responsibility.
Yeah, because we're all growing right now as humans, and because of all this, like we it's like it brings us closer when something like this happens.
Absolutely. And the one thing I really love about it is that there's no traffic. I love driving on the freeway, and then I can get to everywhere without having to stop. And what normally would take like an hour, 45 minutes doesn't take us an hour and a half to 2 hours anymore. Abigail also says some kids do fall and get hurt and turn to crawl because it was easier.
But then eventually they do learn to walk.
Yeah, they do learn. They might stop for a little bit.
Yeah.
You might get cut. You might get bruised in some of the things that you do. But again, you will heal. Yeah. The body learns to heal. Life will tend to heal itself. And we just got to keep pushing forward. But when there could be those times that we talked about earlier where it just seems like we've done all that we can. At least we've done all that we know what we can do. And there's those times where you feel like I'm just going to give up. I'm just going to stop. That's the feeling of despair when I'm no longer going to try anymore. And there are people that do that. Yeah. And there's people that give up on life.
Yeah.
There's no way through this. And we've heard that, because of this whole situation, that suicide rates have gone up.
Yeah. And that's because they're giving up because they feel that there's no solution to what's going on, and they just give up. And it's unfortunate because, things, could have gotten better, but I guess that was what they chose in that moment.
Yeah, because that's the perception is we can only see so far. We can only think so far. It's like when you look outside, it's like, how far can you really see? Can you see the next city or the next town in front of you? Can you even see the next street? A lot of times we can't because our eyes can't go that far, or there's something that's obstructing our vision. But there's so much more out there. There's so many more solutions. But a lot of people, they don't choose to see that, or they're not taught how that there's so much more, and there's so many people that are willing to help that actually care about them. And one thing is that we can actually change our situations. We can literally, by making a decision, we can change who we are. We can change our behaviors. We can choose to, if you feel like you've been a very negative, angry person, or just an angry mood for most of your life, just by one decision, you can next day say, you know what, I'm going to choose to be happy. I'm going to choose to be more positive. I'm going to choose to be more helpful to other people. So we can choose to do that, but we have to choose it.
Yeah, it's kind of like the people that were like in a country years ago, and then they got on a boat or on a ship, and then they took off knowing that there was going to be, that there's more than just what's there.
Yeah.
Like they knew that, there's something, like it can't just be this, like there's always more, to life. And they pursued, and they found land somewhere else, but they didn't give up on that. They kept going, even though people said, you're crazy. Like, what are you doing? You're going to fall off the earth. That's when they thought the earth was square, and they found land. So that's they didn't give up, and they persevered.
Yeah. And again, be mindful when you're sharing your vision and what you want to do, or what you're going to change within you to other people. You want to make sure that they're supportive. We go back into, our story of Disney earlier, Walt Disney, where he was in a depressed moment where he was burnt out. He was tired of the way things are going. He actually got tired of his cartoons.
Yeah.
He couldn't stand Donald Duck. He was actually getting tired of Mickey for a while. And he went to, I think, a therapist or someone, and said, you need to take a trip. And so he went to France. I believe it's France, or he went overseas.
Yeah.
And something sparked an idea in his mind because he saw somebody playing his cartoons in a very long session. Think like cartoons on TV. They're like maybe a few minutes long, and that's how they were. And then he got this idea that this one person was playing him over and over again at this theater, and people would be there for like a couple hours. And that's when he got that idea. I want to make a longer cartoon motion picture. Everybody thought it was crazy that it wasn't going to work. Like
a movie.
Yeah, he wanted to make a movie, a cartoon movie, like a longer length. No, nobody does that. That's where he was told. No one's going to want to watch it. No one's going to pay for that. We're not going to back you on this. And so, but eventually he got funding for it, and then he created Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And that became like a really huge hit.
Yeah.
Because people couldn't see that, but because
they couldn't see it in the moment, and his mind was just he thought futuristic wise.
He could have easily just agreed to what they thought and said, okay, well, I'll try something different.
Yeah, but he kept pushing and he made it happen. And Jamie says, LOL, I think I have forgotten how to drive on the freeway since I have been off work since March.
Abigail says, you guys always leave me feeling more peaceful.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, good. That's
awesome.
That's the intention we always want to bring to the show is, are you feeling a little bit better from when before you even tuned in to when you tuned out afterwards? Not tuned out, but you turn we leave and we turn off. But you can always go back and watch the replay. So she says, like riding a bike, it will come back to you when you need it. Now we can see a different reality for the first time in a long time.
And then she says, fascinating. He was a genius. He was. And Jamie, she loves Snow White.
Yes, yeah. Snow White. And so, but those are the things that we're able to create. It's like, what is your big vision? What is maybe something that other people can't see your vision? And you want to create something that's like, what if you can see it, then you should be able to do that. Now, you may not know how to do it, but if that's something you really, really want to do, you can create that. If you look at, I'll talk to Jamie here for a moment, with photography, there's so many different things you can do with photography. Oh, yeah. What do you want to do with it? And where do you see yourself in the process in the next year, in the next 2 years? What would you love to be doing? And you create that vision in your mind first. You can even write it down on paper and journal and create that vision. It's like you're writing the script of your vision, your dream. And you can go back and edit as much as you need to as you start to see the pieces start unfold. And there's people that are there to guide you through that. There's photographers that have been very, very successful in doing that. And they can even maybe show you how they did it and things that you might want to do as you're starting out. So you can avoid a lot of the mistakes that they made.
Yeah. And like you said, talk to the people who have done it and who have done it for years. And also, I know there's different types of photography and you choose the one that resonates with you. But there's so much out there and so much stuff you can do. My daughter was doing messing around with the panoramic camera on my phone. And we took this picture and with the mirror, and it looks like she's looking at herself in the mirror or she's like looking away. And then the reflection in the mirror is like doing something different. But it was awesome how we did it. And I was helping her with that. But, she's 13 and she's already learning all these different tricks with the camera that you can do with
so much
photography. It's amazing.
I want to say hello to Gil. He's finally tuning in and says, good morning, my friends. Good morning. Jimmy says also in landscape photography. She also said family photography and singer pictures as well. Nice. I want to say, is that like high school singers or seniors? I want to make sure we understand the difference. Senior,
because her son said so.
That's why I want to make sure I understood that one. Abigail says she loves that we include everybody here into the show, and that gets the show is for all of us. And Jimmy says, I'm following and learning from a lot of different photographers, and I have a few favorite photographers. Yeah, that's exactly how we do. That's how we even design the show, is we look at what are other people doing and how can we emulate or do some of the things that they did, but also how can we make it better? What can we do that's a little bit different? But it's all based on our own uniqueness, because you have your own uniqueness with the photography. So something you see that other people may not be able to see. And that's what makes you different. And so and it really comes down to how much you love it and your passion with it. That's where it's really going to show. It's like, what's the energy that gets put into that picture? What's the energy that we put into this show, our business and our family? Our energy is everything.
Yeah. I also took photography in high school. It was fun. I enjoyed that class. Yeah. And we developed the film and the negatives and everything. It was cool.
So we've been talking about persevering through challenging times. And our hope is, if there's been something that you've been going through or have and realize that this has been a challenging, and by us sharing this information and getting the feedback from people here also that join them with us on the show, is that a hope that's been a little bit of an inspiration, or a hope that, wow, these challenges in our life can be a blessing. And we just have to learn how to see that. We have to kind of push through all the fog and the muck and see where's the good that's going to come out of this. What's gonna happen as that you're getting out of that cocoon phase, as we'll call it. And there's something that's going to transform within you. And if you're having challenges and you still are feeling stuck or don't know what to do, we're here to help. We're here to reach out to us because that's what Veronica and I do, is help people to push through challenges, to help you uncover what blocks you, what stops you from moving forward in your life. And a lot of times we have to work inside first, and there's a lot of healing that needs to take place and move past all that so we can see that light on the other side.
Yeah. So Jamie, she did say it was high school seniors pictures.
Abigail said, yeah. So Jamie says, I did photography in school, and I also used to work for Sears Portraits.
Oh, okay.
I never knew that. That's my sister. I didn't even know she did that. Abigail says, I also study computer graphics.
Oh.
Interesting. And then she says, many photographers get behind the camera to get away from the lens. Interesting.
Yeah.
And you used to be the model.
Yeah.
And so Veronica used to be the one they were taking pictures of. And so again, so many different ways. And what can you do differently? Gil says, I love taking photos, but I don't take any of myself.
Oh. Yeah, when you're taking photos of yourself, like you could do it with your cell phone, but sometimes it's a little hard to, get those real professional cameras, and you have to set it up just right and then take them yourself.
Yeah. And Jamie says, you were little, Aaron. I was 24 at the time. Yeah, the things like never paid attention to. So it's those things where, whatever you want to do, is if there's something you really enjoy doing, it's like you get the opportunity to do that once you decide that that's what you want to do, and figure out ways that you can do that. And if you don't know how to do it, there's help for that.
Yeah.
And that's the duty. That's when you get to do the things that you love. That's what really Awaken Your Spirit's about, is doing something you really want to do, be creative. That's something that brings you joy and happiness. And the more you can stay in that state, the better your life will be.
Yeah. So do what you love.
Do what you love. So I want to thank everybody for being here with us today here on Awaken Your Spirit. Again, we are your hosts. I'm Dr. Aaron Garcia.
And I'm Veronica Mendez Garcia. And, we're so glad you guys tuned in today. And we are live Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Pacific. Also Thursdays, we have the Divine Numerology with Darius Oliver.
And that'll be at 10 a.m. Pacific time.
Thursdays at 10. Last week it was at 9 because we had a schedule difference here. But we're back to our normal time of 10 a.m. Pacific. Yeah,
if you guys would like to do some numerology readings, make sure you join us here on the show. And the way you can do that, if you want to know when we go live, we are live here on Facebook and also on YouTube. And so on Facebook, you just turn on the live notification buttons here in the feed. And on YouTube, you can subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell icon, so you always get notified when we have a new video that's posted. And you never miss us when we're live. So thank you guys for being here. We enjoy you. Thank you so much, from the bottom of our hearts. And we will see you next time.
All right. Have a great day.
Bye.